We have the change of what's going on in the current sort of macro environment, the current administration and all that goes with that. I think at the end of the day, that's creating a lot of uncertainty for our clients and also for us, as agency partners. And I don't think any of us really like uncertainty. I certainly don't. But beyond that, there are real policy changes that can really impact our clients. And the reality is we can't control this, right? And so, what we try to stay focused on are the things that we can change while we're also staying informed and being ready to advise and support our clients and whatever those challenges are. A lot of things haven't changed. There's a lot of change and transformation going on in our industry, but then there are also things that remain the same. I don't know one client that we work with who isn't resource challenged in some way, and that has been going on for a long time. So, what they really need is a responsive and nimble team. They need to, rely on us to know the strategy and the science in and out and all the nuances that go along with that. And they need us to execute well. They need us to unburden them of some of the operational challenges that they have. I think there has been a promise of this in many cases, and clients have not necessarily experienced the benefit of that promise. It's kind of important to understand that you can't just put all these things together and they, voila, will automatically create this integrated approach, right? It is really important to understand that it doesn't happen by itself. It's an intentional building of a culture of collaboration, of working together, and rewarding teams as a whole, or in my opinion, it doesn't work. I often hear people also talk about this in the sense of like big versus small and the large network agencies and the promise that they make versus the nimbleness of a small company. I don't really think it's about size at all. I think it's about structure and function and the culture that you build within the organization and creating opportunities for teams to collaborate. I also think it's about removing competition from the equation, because that's what happens in a lot of companies where you might have different organizations coming together and integrating, and they're all being held accountable for their individual P&Ls, and there's competition kind of naturally that's bred in that environment. And we really remove all of that. We try to focus on what's actually just best for the client. So if a piece of business comes in to the organization, we don't want people fighting over where that revenue is going to sit. We want people purely focused on who are the right people, what's the expertise we need, how do we form a team around this client to solve these challenges so that we can do what's absolutely best for the client. And where the revenue goes is easy. That's not an issue. We really need to be focused on how are we lifting the burden for the client? How are we helping them solve this and breaking down those silos by not creating them in the first place? Loved the name immediately because it so simply reflects what we want to communicate. And I think people just get it immediately, right? So it's simple, it's direct, and I think it reflects, really our mission, and that is collaboration. Our belief that delivery value is about integrating the right minds, tools, and strategies so that we can bring those to clients, and that our structure breeds performance. Intentionality about that structure creates a seamless, cross-functional experience for the clients as well. What we really focused on is structuring into 4 distinct service areas. So for us, that's medical communications and advertising, learning solutions, strategy consulting, and technology. And then in addition to that, we have supporting these shared services of creative meetings and events and project management. But I think what really sets us apart is how embedded all of these groups are in each other's teams, and then how that reflects on the client and that they don't experience the silos that maybe they experience in some other organizations. A few years ago, with all these acquisitions, we realized wow, we have a real opportunity to kind of get ahead of this and to bring all these unique and individual experts together to say hey, let's start planning and collaborating and talking about, new technologies, new opportunities. What can we learn from each other? And what can we bring that's new and unique to our clients when it comes to brand planning time, so that we're not crunched as we usually are, where it's July or August or God forbid, even September, and budgets are due in October, and we're, sort of locking ourselves in a room and struggling to get this stuff done. So we bring our teams together early in June, and we bring about 75 people in the company together for a several day live meeting. And we just really kind of do this cross collaboration and sharing of what's out there. And so that when clients begin that process, our teams are already ready. We've already been learning. We've already been ideating about new and innovative ideas to bring to the table. So I think that's one example of how we really try to utilize this very unique and I think special culture of collaboration that we have to do our best work for our clients. I won't name clients or anything like that, but I'll just sort of describe how this actually looks in real life, as we try to execute things for clients. And one of them was a personal experience that I had. I actually wasn't intimately involved in the execution of a project, but I showed up on site at a medical conference, and we had worked on a number of things for this client in a cross-collaborative team that we had pulled together from 3 different separate teams across the organization. And I got to the conference, and it was the booth, and it was the branding, and it was the MOA video, and it was all the things that we had done to prepare for this presence that we were going to have at this conference. And I remember kind of talking to the client and saying, God, I'm so proud of how this all came together. How are you feeling about it? And he said how pleased he was. And I just sort of mentioned flippantly about this was really great to see all these different teams within our organization come together to deliver this. And he stopped and looked at me and he said, what are you talking about? And I said, and then I sort of got a little nervous, and I was like, well, we had several teams that came together to sort of, deliver this. And to me, it's like the promise that we make to clients, but it was like, how are we going to see this actually work? And he said, I didn't even know that. He said, so that's amazing, because I've worked with a lot of different companies and I've had a lot of different experience. And so the fact that I didn't even know that is pretty amazing. And so for me, I kind of walked away from that experience thinking that was a real win, that we were able to really delight a client in that way and do some really great work and utilize, this cross-functional team. And the client didn't even know that we were sort of coming from different parts of the organization. The other thing that's happening within our organization that sort of tells me that this is working and that this is unique is we're starting to get really different opportunities as an organization. One example of that is an opportunity that we had to bring together strategy, creative, and technology to create a bespoke AI chatbot to build solutions directly into a client's portal and or website. So I think all in all, I think we could probably all agree that stakeholders are really overwhelmed with the volume of digital content that's out there and what they're going to do with it and how they're going to deliver it. And so by bringing experts from across our team together to create more user-centric experiences that are personalized to the individual user's needs and then customized to the client's data and their environment is something that is really needed, currently with all of this technology transformation that's going on. That is not an opportunity that we would have had previously without our ability to really express to clients all of this different expertise. This one happens to be strategy, creative, and technology, but mix it together any way you want. We can now bring a lot of these things together in a much more powerful offering that I think clients probably would never have thought of us for that type of a project, but we're very well suited for it today versus maybe where we were 5 years ago.